covered in bruises. The young boy weeps. His sister sacrificed everything to shield him from the thugs. The bastards even plotted to desecrate her body. Helpless rage burned, yet his limbs refused to move. Suddenly, his mana erupted. A sapphire light exploded, sending those worthless thugs flying backwards. He clung to her cold body. No matter the strikes he took, he wouldn't let out a single cry. Was this all a nightmare? From the slums to the world's strongest knight, he had already risen once. But humanity fell to the demon hordes. Even the 10 legendary knights were slaughtered in the end. Tiny burned his very soul to slay Gluttony. But after that strike, he was left broken and dying. Just then, the Sword Emperor's blade triggered a regression. He was reborn into the past to try again. This time, fate will be rewritten. First on the list, that dog Guk, the man who killed his sister. But before vengeance, one final duty. Erina deserves a proper burial at the Holy Cathedral. They weren't blood-related, but she was his world. She called him Tiny and loved him as her own. 1 month later, Tiny stands at the lion's den. He's come for blood and absolute retribution. Get out here, Guk. The gatekeepers laughed, thinking he was just a lost, helpless brat. A guard lunged, but Tiny caught him easily. With a sickening crack, he snapped the man's arm. The other guard froze in pure terror. He tried to lift the boy, but Tiny was as heavy as a mountain. One kick sent the thug soaring away. Tiny was channeling mana directly into his very cells. This was his secret art, mana, body integration, a technique he perfected in his previous life. The power was immense, but the hunger was worse. He'd just finished 10 days' worth of food. His friend Emma watched in total shock. As a thug tried to flee, Tiny caught his leg like a predator. Like a rag doll, Tiny slammed him into the wall. The impact shook the entire building to its core. The gang inside roared in fury. Who dares let a mere brat cause such chaos in our home? A bald thug stepped up, only to be grabbed. Tiny used him as a human mace to crush the others. The fodder were crushed in seconds. Now, it was finally time for the Render brothers to pay. They realized he was a mana user. Their eyes gleamed with greed, thinking of his corpse's high price. They underestimated him, a fatal mistake. Tiny's speed was already beyond their pathetic comprehension. Before they could blink, his fist met their faces. They were dancing in the palm of a master. A flurry of blows rained down like thunder. Tiny unleashed a combo that left them screaming in agony. Guk finally appeared, face twisted with rage. He couldn't believe a child had decimated his entire army. Guk's body distorted, growing into a massive beast. He transformed into a terrifying, bloodthirsty wolfman. "You look like a lost puppy," Tiny mocked. Even in this form, Guk was nothing but weak prey. The beast lunged with feral hunger. But Tiny dodged every strike with cold, calculated precision. Tiny caught the wolf's muzzle with one hand. With a surge of power, he shattered Guk's jaw instantly. He knew exactly how to put down rabid dogs. Even in a berserk state, Guk was utterly dominated. Reverting to his pathetic human form, Guk collapsed. But Tiny wasn't finished with him just yet. As Guk begged for his life, Tiny noticed something. Why was a beastman hiding in this slum? He found a soul stone nearby. Trapped within was the spirit of a legendary silver wolf. With one punch, Tiny shattered the ceiling chains. He peered into the creature's ancient, painful memories. He saw men in black slaughtering the pack, a cruel massacre driven by pure, unadulterated greed. They were using the stones to create artificial beastmen, a dark experiment that defied the laws of heaven. Tiny's mana healed the fractured stone. An unbreakable bond was formed between the boy and the beast. He named his new companion Moonwolf. Now, he needed answers from the dying, pathetic thug. "Who is behind this?" Tiny demanded. But before Guk could speak, his head exploded in a flash. A cursed seal had been planted in his brain. Silence was the only way they protected their secrets. Tiny looted the safe using Guk's own hand. Among the gold sat a very familiar, royal ring. It belonged to Valentina, daughter of the Sword Emperor. A fated encounter was already beginning. She had always been kind to him. Now, knights arrive at a scene of absolute carnage. "A mere brat did this," Tiny sneered, mocking the corrupt official's greed until he fumed. A massive fist lunged forward. Tiny instantly sensed his opponent was only at mana level 2. Such weak trash dared to bark? Tiny effortlessly parried before surging mana into a counter-strike. The blow was blocked. Tiny hesitated to escalate, knowing the Lord commanded a massive army. As the knight drew his blade, the massive silver wolf appeared, freezing everyone in pure terror. Teeny offered gold to settle it. Outmatched and terrified, the knight had no choice but to listen. "Can you pay 5 gold coins?" The knight bluffed, but Teeny saw right through his lies. 1.5. Take it or die. The choice was simple. Take the gold or the grave. Choosing life, the knight accepted. Teeny then demanded an immediate audience with the local lord. "Bring back every worker and child within an hour," Teeny commanded. He wouldn't let them escape. 1 death for every minute you're late. Terrified, they scrambled to obey his dark decree. Exactly 1 hour later, everyone gathered. Emma ran to him, trembling with deep concern. Seeing the blood, she panicked. "Goop is dead," he stated coldly, sending shivers through the crowd. The people trembled. They knew the Lord protected Goop and feared his impending, ruthless wrath. Teeny remained calm. He held the ledger of the Lord's sins. Baron Fish was finally finished. "You're free." The crowd erupted in rage, desecrating Goop's corpse to avenge their long suffering. Teeny threw open a chest of gold. "Take everything." The citizens stood there, completely stunned. To him, gold was trash. He advised Emma to flee to Diamond for a safer life. At the castle, guards mocked him. Even General Phi Grand looked down on the small boy. They underestimated him, but Teeny wasn't fazed. He warned the general to watch his mouth. The general fumed but stayed his hand. Teeny was the Lord's invited guest for today. Teeny greeted Lord Baron with mock nobility. Baron found this mysterious child quite intriguing. Teeny remembered him as a bloated drug addict in his past life. He looked different now. Learning Teeny was only 13 shocked them. But in this world, power mattered more than age. The Lord exploded in rage. "You dare steal my gold?" Teeny smiled, unfazed by the threat. "I'm helping you," Teeny countered. "Duchess Valencia is coming to purge this corrupt land. I'm just cleaning up before she arrives." The general laughed, calling his words utter nonsense. But Baron grew silent. He had already sensed the Duchess's movement. He couldn't ignore this. Baron questioned him about the silver wolf. Suddenly, Teeny noticed a dark mana circling the Lord. A dark mage. Demons never grant power without a price. Teeny realized the horrifying truth. A level 2 dark ring meant hundreds of sacrifices. This man was a cold-blooded murderer. He was the one buying corpses. Baron ordered the general to kill the boy immediately. Teeny unleashed the silver wolf's aura, paralyzing the general. The old warrior froze in shock. "He's at level 2 mana," the general gasped. A nameless brat was a literal combat genius. Teeny lied about his origins. He had calculated everything long before arriving in this hellhole. He had 15 days until the Duchess arrived, but a darker threat would come in 7. His current strength wasn't enough to survive. The situation was turning deadly very fast. Run or get stronger? Teeny chose power. But first, his stomach began to growl loudly. At the tavern, people stared. Stacked plates reached the ceiling. Was this kid a monster? His mana-infused body needed fuel. To Teeny, eating was the ultimate form of rapid cultivation. Every bite increased his potential. Suddenly, a knight interrupted his feast, looking for a fight. "Move aside, old man. Can't you see I'm eating?" Teeny's cold insult enraged the knight. "You've been eating for an hour," the knight roared, smashing the table into splinters. The general watched silently. He was testing Teeny's limits. Teeny saw right through the pathetic scheme. Outside, the arrogant knight smirked, certain of an easy victory against the tiny, weak boy. Discarding his sword, he mocked Teeny, but a lightning-fast fist silenced him mid-sentence. Teeny unleashed a barrage of sweeping kicks, but the stubborn brute refused to fall. Enraged, the knight lunged, yet Teeny's tiny frame danced around his clumsy, heavy strikes. Jumping high, Teeny locked his neck, ending the fight with one effortless, chilling snap. Everyone stood frozen in shock. This small kid possessed absolutely monstrous, terrifying strength. Teeny wobbled, having burned mana to close the gap while the fool was wide open. In his past life, recovery was fast, but mana pool growth was painfully, deadly slow. Now, his new body was a masterpiece, free from all previous limits and physical flaws. With this perfect vessel, he completed hellish training, transcending his former legendary peak self. Rising as a noble shadow, Teeny finally tasted the finest delicacies of the high elite. These tiny portions were pathetic, but he ate gracefully to maintain his mysterious, calm facade. The lord revealed that a powerful, shadowy backer had taken a keen interest in Teeny. This lord was a fake, surviving only on magic circles. Without them, he was trash. Teeny needed more power to crush level 2 mages and the elite warrior named Cran. 3 days of insane training followed, turning his small frame into a weapon of war. He traded mass for godlike agility, avoiding the mana flow issues of his previous bulky life. The general summoned him for gear, but the armory held only rusted, useless scrap metal. Nothing fit his small size, and the weapons were blunt toys compared to his needs. Then, his eyes locked onto the general's sword, Arius, a masterpiece of legendary swordcraft. Forged by Master Roger, its value was far beyond what this ignorant general could comprehend. "Hand it over!" Teeny demanded. The general roared in fury, threatening to kill the brat. Teeny smirked, challenging him to a duel with the sword as the ultimate winner's prize. Violent crashes echoed until Teeny emerged, face bruised, looking like he had been defeated. But clutched in his hand was Arius. The general had been utterly, miserably crushed inside. That night, the lord woke to screaming alarms, assuming his slaves had finally revolted. Before he could move, a cold blade pierced his heart. Teeny was his final nightmare. Dawn broke to a horrific discovery. The knights found the lord dead, but 0 clues. The body was unnaturally rotted, leading them to suspect a dark mage's foul, cursed work. The murder weapon was the general's own sword, making him the prime, hunted suspect. The general vanished. A knight summoned Teeny for questioning about that fateful bloody night. The warehouse was a mess of the general's tracks, yet he had vanished like smoke. Unexpectedly, the knight let him go, though Teeny sensed a hidden, dangerous motive beneath. Teeny struggled to recall this man's face from his past life's memories of battle. Something felt wrong. Why would this knight ask for a second meeting so soon? Handing over a mercenary card and gold, the knight urged Teeny to seek greater lands. "Your talent is wasted in this prison," he said. "Seek the vast, endless blue oceans." He spoke like a wise mentor, laughing heartily as if he knew Teeny's hidden potential. Perhaps he had left the city early in the previous timeline, escaping the coming slaughter. Teeny agreed. The dark mages and the royal army were moving. War was coming fast. The knight finally introduced himself as Grand Liberty, leaving Teeny shocked by the legendary name. Teeny departed, leaving the city's fate in the hands of this seemingly honorable, strong man. Suddenly, the moon wolf bounded out, looking ridiculous but eager to follow its master. It insisted on carrying him, despite the long road ahead. Teeny eventually gave in. Their souls began to resonate, merging as one in the ultimate bond of beast mastery. Level 2 Soul Link Evolution. The lunar wolf isn't just a beast anymore. It's a reflection of its master's power. This derpy wolf suddenly ignites with terrifying speed. Tiny almost loses his balance as they blur through the landscape. Every sense is now shared. At this breakneck pace, they'll reach Valentino long before the shadows of destiny descend. The great calamity is nearing the same nightmare that scorched his past life and stained the entire continent in blood. It is the herald of the demon march. Unless he acts now, humanity will be crushed before they can even resist. The chaos begins with the theft of the Karen relics, 7 divine treasures gifted by the goddess to repel evil. In his previous life, these artifacts were lost. Now, he's the only one who can rewrite this tragic history. Meanwhile, a dark sorcerer arrives at Inverter. He effortlessly butchers the gatekeepers like they are mere, insignificant insects. Even the veteran knight is helpless. With a simple snap, his mind is shattered and his secrets are bared. The mage demands the location of the lord's corpse. The puppet knight can only point toward the master bedroom. A sleep spell follows. When the knight awakens, the nightmare is real. The lord's body has completely vanished. The sorcerer's eyes narrow. He realizes a certain black-haired brat is the ghost haunting his master's grand design. Tiny finally reaches Valentino. Broken, exhausted, he's immediately surrounded by a group of brainless, arrogant street thugs. They want his last coins, but Tiny only offers a cold smirk. "Tell me, do you losers have any cash?" The predators become the prey. Onlookers gasp as a small child effortlessly dismantles thugs with night-level strength. They lunge again in desperation, but Tiny's fists find their mark every time. Not a single strike is wasted. Consider it a lesson in humility. Our hero was short on funds, but these fools just provided a donation. He visits a blacksmith for a proper weapon, but everything feels too small. Then, A nearby commotion catches his eye. A crowd gathers around a legendary beauty. Tiny, ever curious, follows to see the spectacle for himself. It's Lucien, the Count's son, trying to woo the princess. He's all talk, promising her worthless, flashy jewelry. But the princess is different. She ignores the gold, wanting instead to see the suffering in the city's slums. Her father, the Sword Emperor, taught her that a nation's true strength is measured by its poorest citizens. Before her political marriage steals her freedom, she vows to bring hope to those abandoned by the light. Suddenly, a young boy stops them. Tiny holds up a royal ring, the very token she gave away years ago. "I've been looking for you," he says calmly. The princess is stunned. The royal seal is unmistakably hers. She recognizes the ring, but the boy is a mystery. She once gave this to a starving beggar child. "Who are you?" The royal guards react instantly, their cold steel pressing against Tiny's throat in a heartbeat. Tiny explains he's that same boy, the only one with pitch-black hair from that fateful day in the mud. It's impossible. That child was a weak, dying runt. This youth radiates a completely different, overwhelming presence. The princess is speechless. She always loved cute things, but this total transformation has left her completely baffled. Tiny summons his lunar wolf, but its adorable baby form makes the princess immediately snatch it up for cuddles. The wolf looks absolutely miserable, but the guards remain wary of the boy's hidden weapons and spirit energy. "How did you change so much?" she wonders. The head knight is horrified to realize Tiny is only 13. He steps in front of the princess. A 13-year-old with this much power? He's either a monster or a demi-human. Tiny ignores the tension. He has a request, an audience with the most powerful warrior on the entire continent. He seeks the Sword Emperor, S.G. Volt Valentino, the legendary master of the devastating light sword technique, the man who once saved him. Tiny must warn him about the dark events unfolding in Fish territory. The princess listens intently. She knows the corrupt lord had powerful backers, and Tiny is the ultimate witness. An investigation is launched. The conspiracy runs deeper than they imagined, and Tiny is the eye of the storm. The legendary lunar wolf is now a literal lapdog. From forest king to a pampered pet, the ultimate indignity. The knight fears the beast's power, but one look at its derpy face makes him question his own sanity. Meanwhile, Tiny is led away by the arrogant Lord Admon. The wolf senses a trap and vanishes instantly. Admon tries to discipline the boy, but he's pathetic. Tiny catches his strike with effortless, bone-crushing strength. The noble is paralyzed with fear. As they reach the castle, the princess sends Vivian to ensure Tiny's safety. Admon wears a sleazy, plotting grin, unaware that he's just provoked a sleeping dragon. Tiny couldn't care less. The Rufus gang surrounds Tiny. That arrogant noble orders his thugs to crush the weak-looking brat. But the thugs recognize him and tremble. Shaking in terror, they warn their leader about this monster. Their boss swings a massive mace. Tiny counters instantly, sending the brute flying into the dirt. Defeated in one blow, the noble is paralyzed with fear. How can this kid be so strong? He faints in shock. Vivian arrives to help, but the battle is already long over. Tiny stands victorious, having looted the gang's treasure and uncovered all their corrupt secrets. He hands the evidence to Vivian. By morning, the arrogant noble is exiled from his family. 3 days later, a mysterious elf hitches a ride, claiming to be a servant of nature. Everyone is charmed by her beauty, but Tiny senses she is a rank 5 dark mage. Elves are rare legends known for beauty, but this one hides a soul-chilling darkness. Finding an elf here is impossible. Tiny knows this peaceful traveler is a deadly threat. Most trust her pure reputation, but Tiny sees right through her divine magical facade. She thinks the princess is the master, but her eyes soon turn toward the mysterious Tiny. Tiny plays the fool to survive. He acts weak to lure the witch into overconfidence. He pretends to be a normal kid, hiding his true power from the predatory mage. She doesn't know the wolf's true power, a secret only its contractor can ever possess. 12 knights against a rank 5? Impossible. The power gap is a deadly abyss. It takes 5 rank 4s to match her. Tiny knows an open fight means death. Using his wolf as a pet distraction, Tiny waits for the perfect moment to strike. The wolf transforms! Vivian seizes the opening and plunges her sword into the witch. The disguise shatters. Everyone realizes they are facing a legendary dark mage assassin. Though wounded, she unleashes a terrifying shockwave, sending the knights flying back in pain. They swarm her together, but her magical barrier remains an unbreakable wall of darkness. A lethal spell strikes Teeny, but his iron skin ability saves him from certain death. 15 against 1. The witch is finally overwhelmed by their relentless, coordinated team attacks. Desperate, she attempts a forbidden soul sacrifice to amplify her fading magical power. But Vivian isn't just a princess, she's a high priest. A holy light erupts forth. Divine power versus dark magic. The witch is crushed by the overwhelming golden radiance. Teeny delivers the final blow. The dark mage dissolves into ash before their eyes. Is this the end? At the city gates, the triumphant group finally arrives home. The princess is mortified. Her father has summoned the entire Knight Order for her. Commander Garen and 100 knights kneel in salute to their returning young lady. The emperor was worried sick. A priceless family treasure has been stolen from him. The Tempush relic is gone. Only the head of the house should possess it. Teeny already has the answer. Vice Commander Garen is stunned by Teeny's immense pressure. A 13-year-old with this much power? Even the 10 great knights weren't this strong. Garen realizes Teeny was the anonymous hero who exposed the corrupt lord's crimes. Teeny remembers his past life's emperor. He knows he must meet him to grow. The journey to Valentino begins a fortress ruled by the legendary House of Valencia. The city celebrates their princess, but the Sword Emperor is the main attraction here. The legendary warrior runs to hug his daughter, but she treats him like trash. He prepares a massive feast for everyone, but his curiosity turns toward the boy. Vivian tells him everything. The Emperor's eyes sharpen as he looks at the young witness. He unleashes a crushing mind pressure, but Teeny's ancient soul stands tall and unmoved. The Emperor is stunned. No child should survive this. Their secret conversation begins now. Armed with past life wisdom, the Treasure Tempest is his only key to rewriting a month of lost history. He returned to the past. The Sword Emperor listens, struggling to believe this impossible, world-altering secret. A heavy question echoes. Why was a mere child sent back instead of the legendary emperor himself? Rebirth occurs when the soul is most broken. For Tiny, it was the day tragedy struck his sister. That traumatic memory became the anchor for his soul to transcend the very boundaries of time itself. The suspicious emperor searches for a hidden sign. Did his future self leave a secret signal to trust? Tiny reveals the name Lila, a secret known only to the emperor, named after his wife's favorite flower. Actually, he feared his wife and was forced. It is a secret he never shared with a single soul. This proof confirms the treasure's disappearance. Yet, the Emperor demands one final test of his true strength. You were a great knight? Then show me that future talent against one of my elite warriors now. A high-ranking knight is summoned. He is insulted, thinking fighting a small child is a humiliating demotion. Tiny mocks his giant hammer, claiming his future weapon was 10 times larger and far more devastating. One scratch equals victory. The Sword Emperor watches as the ultimate underdog battle of the century begins. As they clash, the Emperor notices Tiny's revolutionary mana control. It is a technique far beyond his years. This child is a once-in-a-generation genius. He has refined his skills through a lifetime of brutal combat. If he truly reached the peak in another timeline, he must possess power that defies all logic. Tiny summons the Moonlight Wolf. His battle aura explodes, chilling the very air in the training arena. The knight swings his massive hammer, but Tiny vanishes like a phantom, dodging the mountain-level strike. Tiny strikes back, but the knight's defense is absolute. Not a single mark on his heavy armor. A crushing blow rains down. Tiny uses extreme speed to escape, nearly being flattened by the impact. The ground shatters from the force. One mistake means instant death against this unstoppable steel fortress. Tiny reads every movement, but the Emperor demands more. He screams for the knight to stop hesitating. The knight unleashes a terrifying soul burn. He charges with killing intent that shocks the Sword Emperor himself. It is a lethal strike. Tiny does not retreat, charging straight into the center of the devastating explosion. Smoke clears as Tiny is sent flying. Yet, he smiles through the blood. I have already won. A thin scratch appears on the knight's face. Tiny risked his life just for that one single opening. The Emperor is stunned by his reckless resolve. Why would a child fight with such suicidal desperation? A street rat like me has no choice. I must win at any cost just to survive. These words finally convince the Emperor. Tiny's iron will is the mark of a true future legend. Tiny recovers quickly, But the princess blocks her father's path, protecting her savior from more training. He just woke up. Are you trying to break him again? Her protective fury silences the emperor. I would not hurt our hero, he mutters, while the princess fussily tends to Tiny's lingering injuries. She scolds Tiny for leaving bed, and he can only offer a gentle apology to the worried girl. Seeing them so close, the Sword Emperor's fatherly jealousy flares like a raging, demonic fire. Stop hitting on my daughter, you brat. The legendary warrior becomes a nightmare to the young boy. Later, they speak of taboos. Time travel is a secret that could bring the wrath of heaven. The flow of time is sacred. It is a boundary that even goddesses are forbidden to touch. For a human to meddle in fate is an insult to the creator who designed the universe. That is why the clan kept this secret. But Tiny notices a strange hole in their history. Is not the goddess the creator? That truth was erased from common scriptures long ago by someone powerful. Only ancient, forgotten Bibles tell the real story. This knowledge is reserved for the world's elite few. Tiny promises to make the knights invincible using his future wisdom. But first, he needs more power. He boldly demands the Emperor's rarest resources. To save the future, he must first become a monster. Everyone underestimates this scrawny kid, unaware he possesses future knowledge to become the strongest among the 10 legendary knights. Before his brute power shocks the world, he demands elite resources only to get a hilarious head smack from his master. This chapter ends here. Smash like to witness this tiny underdog dominate everyone with his hidden, monstrous strength.